Good morning, Sunday morning, and I'm just about to head out for my second ride with the group that I recently joined. And today we're going through Bermondsey, Deptford, and Peckham Rye. So it should be interesting. It's longer than the last one. The last one was only 15 miles, and today is 27, I think. Looking pretty mild out there. Hopefully the sun will break through. Anyway, I'll take you along. So heading out today, I didn't know who I was going to meet on the ride, apart from Neil, who I met on the previous ride, who's the ride organiser. I knew that the two people that had joined me on the previous one weren't attending today, and that there were 3 or 4 others that, whose names I didn't recognise and hadn't met before. But that's the interesting thing about these group rides, is meeting new people and hearing their stories. And obviously we've got the commonality of wanting to get out on our bikes and go exploring. And this is the great thing of going out on a ride and exploring places that I've not been to, or even though they're in my local area, not come across before. So yeah, again, really looking forward to it. Was pleasantly surprised by the weather. So we'd had a few good days of sunny spells, and today was forecast as cloudy, but it actually was quite bright and a lot warmer than I expected. So yeah, really happy. Done a couple of commute style rides heading out of Croydon on this same route recently, sort of midweek during rush hour and school run times and that sort of thing. So it's really nice to have a lot less traffic and a lot less impatient and mad drivers than I would on the other rides. So this was quite refreshing on this Sunday morning. There's Ruskin House on the corner there. That's a Grade 2 listed Georgian townhouse and was the headquarters for Croydon's Labour and Trade Union. Originally opened in 1967 by the then Prime Minister Harold Wilson. You can still hire it for social events to this very day. I plan to get there very early today because I'm only a few minutes away from the meeting point. So last time we were due to meet at 10 and I got there at 2 minutes to 10 and everybody was already waiting. So today I aimed to get there for 10:15 so that no one will be waiting for me. And as it turns out, Neil was already there, the ride organiser, and I was second to turn up, so that was pretty good from my point of view. Turned the corner, I thought Neil was warming his knees up, but it turns out he was actually just pumping up his tyre. And we're off. So far there's 4 of us, and we've been told that we're meeting the 5th rider in Peckham. So we're heading out of Croydon now, following some familiar routes. As we were passing Fairfield Halls, Neil and I were swapping stories about which gigs and things we'd seen there. Neil was telling me that he wasn't really a fan of the venue for various reasons, but it reminded me of a time when I'd seen Alexander O'Neill perform there, and great singer, but I think in the breaks I remember his wife coming on stage and trying to sell the Alexander O'Neill aftershave, which I thought was quite tacky but funny at the same time. Down, which will be Flats or a Tesco Express, I'm sure, sometime soon. Great about these rides, okay, so we're cycling at a nice kind of conversational pace, and Neil, the ride organiser, just knows so much about the history of the routes that he plans, so I always quiz him about, where are we and what's going on here, and he always comes up with interesting and factual answers. So the audio wasn't very good, but it turns out, so after speaking to Neil, that the Addiscombe Railway Park actually occupies the former track bed of the Addiscombe Railway line, and that ran from 1864 to 1997. And I think they ended up making way for trams when they cancelled that line. But I think 2007 is when Croydon Council decided to make it a park. I think it operates on or uses 1.3 hectares of linear green for footpaths and cycleways, and also includes habitat for local wildlife and other community features like a garden and orchard. encyclopedia that is Neil. It's always interesting to hear, from the other people on the ride. So we do kind of swap around and chat to each other, and someone else goes up front and drops back and so on. And on today's ride, two of the other people I found really interesting. So one was a mental health nurse, and she had changed career from a corporate career after being made redundant and having some time to reflect, decided that she'd like to go back and retrain as a mental health nurse, and found that it was something that she was always probably destined to be, because she was always someone that people felt comfortable talking to and coming to with their problems and that sort of thing. So I found that fascinating, really. In terms of her getting into cycling, that was one way that she can get out and look after her own mental health and forget about work and just focus on the pedalling and the exploring and enjoying her time, like we all do, whether we focus on it or not. The mental aspects of cycling are just as good as the physical benefits. Some of these little cycleways that Neil finds to travel, just places that you couldn't drive, but nice little shortcuts and safe riding spaces to make the route more enjoyable. To another fellow on this ride, another fascinating conversation. I found out that he had actually been an emergency call operator for the police for 25 years, and just again coincidentally, we're just talking about mental health and how the cycling kind of helps us and figuring out what we had in common. Obviously a job like that could cause a lot of stress, and did. So cycling for him was also a really great release for that kind of pressure, and now he's changed roles and does a much easier, a bit like me, does a much more calm job that he can cope with. But yeah, the cycling is the real release that we both had in common. The other thing we had in common is that we are actually the same age, so we were reflecting on how little was known about mental health in our youth, and how much better it is now that you can talk about it and have some sort of support groups. And for me, if cycling is one of those, then great. So a bit more local history now. South Norwood Country Park, located in the London Borough of Croydon, has a rich history. Originally part of the Great North Wood, it later hosted a medieval moated manor named La Motus, which was abandoned due to flooding in the 19th century. It later became a sewage farm until 1967, after which it was just used as landfill, with rubble from World War II demolitions forming the park's highest point. Officially, it was opened as a country park in 1989. It now serves as a local nature reserve supporting diverse wildlife and offering recreational facilities such as old men cycling. This fella was doing his best to try and control his dog, so I said, "Oh, look at those Jack Russells, they're lovely," and he kind of smiled and eased up a bit. I think he was under a bit of stress until that point. I always acknowledge walkers and other people by saying good morning or good afternoon. I think when we're sharing these paths, it's always nice to be courteous and polite. Plus, I like the response I get back as well. One more rider to meet now, so that would turn 4 into 5. So we're just exiting South Millwood Country Park, and we're going to meet the 5th rider on Elmer's End Road. So she's dropped a pin on the map somewhere that we're going to try and find, and while we wait, we catch up and have a bit more of a chat. For some reason it takes a little bit longer than we expected to find our missing rider, but it was a leisurely day and nothing was really much of a rush, so we put the world to rights a bit more. Spotted. Let's get ready and we're going to be off again. From here, the 5 of us head off for about an hour's more riding before we stop off for lunch at our first cafe stop. It's a lovely place, bike friendly, just off of Deptford High Street. Unfortunately I can't remember the name right now. They have a lovely little courtyard where a bit of a sun trap. They served really nice sandwiches and hot food, as well as pastries if you wanted. So I had a toasted sandwich and a coffee, of course, before we headed off again.
Thank you very much. That was lovely. Everything was good. Thank you very much. Thank you. Take care.
So from here, fully fed and watered and topped up with energy, we embark on the second half of our ride. So we headed off for about another hour's riding, making sure to take plenty of photos and chatting along the way. It was a really nice warm day, so nice and casual, not too hot, not too cold, but it wasn't too long before we stopped off again, this time at Cafe G in Peckham for a lovely, well, I had carrot cake and coffee. It was absolutely delicious. Destined to break this today. I think I tempted fate there because this is the state of my GoPro now. It was actually a day later going for a ride to meet my friends at Nando's, and I went over a bump and the magnetic latch failed, and GoPro hit the road, and I sort of swung over to the side to pick it up, but a bus ran over it and killed it. RIP GoPro. But on a plus note, I did actually lodge a support case with GoPro and explained that the magnetic latch failed, sent them some details, and they've agreed to replace it. So happy days. Okay, time to head back now and do the second half of our loop.
Sorry, feel free to go ahead. Oh, thank you. Oh, following you. That's it. We all here? All good?
I think it's around here that we started talking about the DJI Neo, and I agreed to do a demonstration at the end of the ride. playtime now, so let's have a little play with the Neo in public spaces. So yeah, just doing the usual kind of demo. Felt a bit self-conscious with it flying around so close to people, but no one really seemed to bat an eyelid. So I was just showing Asif how it worked, and then obviously offered him a go too. Asif was just telling me a bit of history about the Queen's Garden, actually, which I didn't necessarily know. It was quite interesting. It's very likely that Asif might want to buy one of these DJI Neos now, but why not? Treat yourself. I also discovered that he had a much better knack for getting it to come back to him. In all the cases that I've tried to get it to come back, I have to walk towards the drone itself, whereas he just stuck his hand out once and it came back to him and then landed. So both Asif and I were both quite interested in local history, so he brought me to this plaque and we kind of read it for a bit. So I'll let it play out here in case you're interested too. As usual, thanks for watching. Please like, share, comment and subscribe. Bye for now.